Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to those who were with me just a couple of moments ago, and welcome to the ones who are here for the first time. Tiago has introduced me very well, so I'm here to talk to give you more awareness about the technical side of things. But if you were here in the previous one, you probably know that like to start looking at the past before I talk about the more in-depth topics. And the first thing I want you to know about me is that obviously I'm Hernani. I come from a city in the north of Portugal called Porto. So this is a tidbit of information that the others did not have. I've been with OutSystems for almost 9 years. It seems like a lifetime already. And I've been playing the role of head of technical solution delivery for the last three, not the last 9 years. Again, in this session, I want to raise some awareness about the more technical part of things. Okay, help me out by looking at the past. I want to see a show of hands. Who here knows what this is? Okay, I don't want to say that you are old, but we're more or less the same age. Okay, so no ageism here. But this is a Commodore 64. Okay, it was used in the 80s. People used to program in BASIC and this thing, not just BASIC, but also. And what about this? Now this is a hard challenge. No one, no one. I'm not asking if you use them. I'm asking if you know them. Okay. So these are punched cards. Okay. These served as the means of input to the machines in the I don't know the 50s or 60s, and people actually use this when programming in Fortran. Okay. In one hand, we look at this and we feel like this is really old. This is deprecated kind of stuff. But then again, they didn't have to worry about test automation. They didn't have to worry about infra management. Neither they have to worry about versioning. Can you imagine versioning of these things? Most of all, and I'm willing to buy not a beer, a cup of coffee, because I lay awake at night sometimes wondering how on earth did these developers get these applications into the app stores. It bothers me so much. So if anyone knows the answer, please reach out to me. Okay. Now, jokes aside. This was my I tried to make it fun way of showing how we've evolved over time. Okay, so much so that currently the software delivery performance is a hot topic. So it's something that's researched, something that it's very deeply looked into. Okay, it's something that we should strive to improve because, especially in this line of work. Now, there's this group, my good friend Bruno Gomes is going to talk more about this, but there's this group I mentioned in the previous session called DORA, DevOps Research and Assessment. It's a team that hailed from Google, and they worry about doing research over software delivery performance, okay? They cluster the teams that do software deliveries into a specific category, as you can see behind me. It can be low, medium, high, or elite performers. I beg of you that you focus on the right-hand side of this table, okay? So whenever you try to do a self-assessment, try to position yourself, not in the self-assessment, but in the work that follows the self-assessment, tries to position yourself in the right-hand side. So this group looks at this basically in two vectors. The first one being speed. If you see there, you see lead time for changes. What does that mean? That means the time it takes for a team to bring code from development to production. And then there's the deployment frequency. How frequently do they do that? There's the time to restore service, and now I'm looking into the stability part of the performance. So was your service affected? Did we do something wrong? Is the service misbehaving? Is there a bug? Is there a defect? How long does it take for the team to actually fix it? And last but not least, change failure rate. What is the percentage of changes we do in production that actually require some kind of remediation? whether we're talking about a rollback, whether we're talking about a hot fix. What is the percentage? Now, if you see that kind of rounded corner square, a rectangle, you see that we're focusing on the high and elite performers. The industry and this DORA team is telling us that the elite performers are very fast. They take code from development to production in less than 1 day. They also do this several times a day. They can restore service within an hour, and fewer than 15% of the changes they do in the production code actually leads to some kind of failure. Okay, so we need to be stable. The software needs to be stable, and we need to be fast delivering that. How do we do that? The answer is continuous delivery. Now, ODC, by now you all know ODC. The way it is built by design, it actually promotes a steady flow of code through its stages. So you perform changes in the development stage only, and those applications are grouped into a container, and that container is moved across your infrastructure. This is how it works. When a team deploys that code, you see that the application container is the one that moves, right? But there are more things. First of all, ODC kind of abstracts you from all the work that you need to do worrying about infrastructure, this auto-scaling, independence of teams. It promotes the independence of teams. It promotes the loosely coupling of your application architecture. So these are all things that are converging towards ODC. So you have an industry telling you that you should go for the continuous delivery, and you now have a tool, not the only tool. O11 can get you there, but ODC is built for this. You now have a tool that actually helps you out doing that. So let's look then at continuous delivery, the answer to that challenge of being an elite performer, of delivering things fast but having a lot of stability. In software engineering, continuous delivery is an approach in which teams produce software in very short cycles, but they need to ensure that the software can be released at any time. So it aims to build, test, and release software more frequently and efficiently. This is all it is about, okay? As we've seen in the previous session, in the traditional agile delivery, what happens is that the code goes to QA infrequently. That delays feedback. If the feedback is delayed from QA, what's going to happen is that first of all, teams need to switch context. They need to, again, look at what they were doing way back then, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks time. They need to switch that context to be able to actually fix that code, to understand what they've done, to know what they need to fix. Even more so, the complex bugs that appear way later in the stage are going to be much more costly. The second thing that happens is that QA receives a high volume of work. So they get a ton of user stories that they need to test, and that is going to delay also the time that the feedback from QA arrives to our team. Okay, it comes rather late in the sprint. If you see there, it comes almost at the end of the sprint. Most of all, and this is the thing that has the more impact, the first business value realization, and for us that means actually giving features, giving something that the users can use in production. The first business value realization comes rather late. Now, by adopting this continuous delivery motion, what we're doing is we're increasing the deployment frequency, okay? And we're also making sure that the QA feedback comes way sooner. You see that the early feedback allows us to identify the issues more quickly. This will make it so that it's less costly and their fix is less complex as well. Remember, context change, for example. The UAT team is a lot less burdened, so we have smaller batches for UAT. This is going to make sure that this is going to help the UAT be faster, and it will actually integrate those UAT moments. It will make them shorter. It will make them more integrated with the actual delivery. Remember the most important part, the business value? This happens way sooner, okay? You can say, yeah, but it can give less stuff for the users to actually use. Yeah, but those were really properly tested. And it makes it so that if you receive something and you give feedback back to your developer saying, yeah, this was not it, what's going to happen is your team would not have invested a full sprint or 2 full sprints in a feature that doesn't help your end user. So you get feedback sooner from your users as well. One very important thing that I mentioned in the previous session is that what you deliver, in this approach, what you deliver and when you deliver to your users is completely determined by business strategy, not technicalities, okay? So we have 8 principles here. Anna told you about these in the previous session. So small batch, the first one, it makes us work with small sets of changes. This will speed up validation, reduce risk. Then you have to keep on releasing frequently to your users. You're going to get user feedback way earlier. You're going to validate that release. You're going to adapt more frequently. You're going to invest less in stuff that actually they don't want. And this avoids the risk of way larger releases. Third, decouple release from deployment. There's this thing that I told you about, feature toggling, which helps you deploy code to production without actually having to release it. That code can be activated, deactivated later on, and it's all in the hands of the business. Not only that, it's also the key for you to manage the work in progress of your teams. This is vital, this is central, and that's why I'm going to talk about that as well. There's this part of breaking changes mitigation. This has to do with you leveraging best practices and well-tried out patterns, architecture patterns, development patterns, to mitigate the impact of breaking changes in code. The code review and maintainability has to do with you or your teams making sound architecture decisions and getting architect, tech lead, and developer to work closer, not all the time, in different times of the delivery lifecycle, but getting them closer to produce high-quality code that is reliable, performant, and easy to maintain and evolve. Okay, this has to do about process, about people coming together to validate decisions and to review code. Last but definitely not least, test automation, something that's going to be covered by Bruno Gomes over there. Not just that, but that as well, will allow you to quickly validate, and automatically test your applications, building up your confidence in your continuous deploy and release processes. So today, as we look into a little bit more technical kind of things, we're going to focus on these 3: decouple release from deployment, code review and maintainability, and test automation. Let's look into how our ways of working need to evolve. And since we're talking about high speed and high quality kind of work, we need to focus on 2 things: on being able to manage work in progress, remember? The same thing we will do with the release of features, so we need to put that decision in the hands of the business. But also there's a heavy focus on the quality that is delivered. So hence, test automation, and as well the proximity of architect, tech lead, and developer. As I told you, let's look into feature toggle then. Code review and maintainability, where our architect, tech lead, and developer are closer than ever. And last but not least, test automation. Those are the answers to each one of the topics that we're following. Let's start then with feature toggling. I've been blabbing my mouth about feature toggling. So what is it? It's an application release pattern. It's going to allow you to modify system by clicking a button. Simply as that. It's during runtime that you click that button. It's not in development time. The most important thing that differentiates this from everything else is that you don't have to do a code deployment to production. It also gives you the power over granularity. It allows you to decide which features are in which stage. And it actually allows you to define that this feature is going to be available for this group of users or for this user in particular, but not for everyone else, okay? It is as powerful as this. Let's look at the very simple way of doing this. So what's going to happen is when we have a delivery, right now we're focusing on a single feature. That feature has 4 user stories, as you see behind me. As soon as we start development, what should happen is a new feature toggle should be created, okay? It's going to be turned off by default. It's going to be turned off by default before the development starts. And the user stories are then developed, tested, accepted, and they are going to be deployed multiple times during this time. But remember, they're deployed to production. But that doesn't mean that the users can actually use them, because what? Feature toggle is off. When the business decides that it actually can be released or it should be released because it's going to add value, because the marketing said so, because that's our strategy, then it's time to feature toggle on. If we dive further, now we have 3 stages. We have dev, QA, and prod. Same feature, okay? Sake of simplicity, same feature. This tenant still has 3 stages, but what's going to happen is we start by having the feature toggled on, but it's on in development. It's on in development. For everyone? No. Just for the developer who's in charge of developing those user stories. We don't want to impact everyone else. So the feature toggle is there to fence the code. What is a fence? A fence is a limit. It's there to actually protect the outside world from impacts from that code, that unfinished code. So let's keep it disabled in all stages. The dev is going to do his work or her work. And by the end, once the feature is ready for QA, we're going to toggle the QA toggle on. Now, dev, remember, dev doesn't have an asterisk there. So at that particular point in time, everyone in development can see that feature, because the dev finished the story, the tech lead code reviewed it, so it's good to go, at least in development. So everyone can look at it, but now QA also, it's available in QA. Let's do our battery of tests. Let's do the end-to-end tests. Are they done? Now there's the most important part. The business needs to decide on a go-live date. Once that go-live date arrives, it's just a matter of releasing a feature by what? Clicking a button. There are other use cases here. I keep talking about the unfinished work. But imagine this. There's a team A working on application 1. They finished their work. So we're getting close to the end of the day where this code actually goes all the way to production, let's say. And we have team B, who is working on application 2, on application 2. But this time, team B still hasn't finished their work. It's going to happen here. Very simply put, what's going to happen is feature toggle is protecting it. So we're going to make it so that the feature toggle is off in production for that particular work. So we push all the code. The code is all there. But the code that was delivered by team B is disabled, okay? What do feature toggles allow us to do? Things like hot fixing, because the feature toggle is protecting that piece of code. We can go back, we can disable it, we can work on that code, push it again, enable it again. Hot fixing. Roll back with kill switch. So did something occur? Production bug? Something that we were not expecting, very easily we go to the console, disable it, and the feature is gone. The users are protected. Last but not least, what I've just shown you, the work in progress. The fact that we're pushing unfinished code, potentially not validated code to production, sounds scary, right? But when this thing is done properly, that code is protected. More than that, the other code is protected, and the other code is what we are concerned about. So it's going to allow you to isolate that work in progress. This is critical for continuous delivery. we got to the part that I was promising you in the previous session. So professional services released to the community last month this tool that was named Feature Toggle. It's very creative. But this tool allows you to create, to manage your toggles centrally, okay? It allows you to manage your toggles across multiple stages, define behaviors for example, individual users, and there's also custom keys for you to create specific behavior around the toggles. You want to do A/B testing? Okay. You can define if you build the logic around those custom keys. Now, it's great that this is available, and the best thing is that it's free. It's free for you to use. We use it in our deliveries, okay? So we are in the best interest of actually getting feedback from you, improving this tool, and making sure that it serves all our purposes. Look at what's happening behind me. This developer got a request from the customer to add a couple of counters in this dashboard. First thing they do, they create a feature toggle. They name it after the application, OneDemoFT. And they name it counters. The application is OneDemoFT. Is under development means that this toggle cannot be activated in production, and the toggle has been created in this console. Remember, he's going to check if it's really on. So there's a slight obsessive compulsive behavior here. I need to talk to that person. But if you see all the toggles are there, you can see very clearly what is activated or not. So now it's time for the developer to do the dirty work, right? To actually build code, build application code, business code. And that's what they're going to do. First thing, they create a static entity to store the IDs of the feature toggles. This one, for now, they only have one, so they're going to create the feature toggle named counters. And then what they're going to do is they will create a block. They will do their magic and add the counters to the block automatically. They appeared. And this, for now, this is all business code. This actually doesn't have to do about features, right? They're building their feature. So they're going to get these values from the server side. And the next thing they will do is they will reach out to the console and understand what's the status of the feature toggle. Is it on? Is it not? So this is where the magic happens, okay? So if you see there, he's populating the values very well. Okay, we're going to add some information here, but keep in mind that this is a very simple approach, a very simple pattern, but think of how powerful this can be. For now, this is a very small example of how you can hide and show a counter in a dashboard. Hide and show it very quickly. You're going to see. You're going to start feeling the urge to actually toggle on and off repeatedly. But this is what happens. It's going to give you power over selective release of features. So now you see that we're actually asking our library if that feature toggle is active or not. The counters feature toggle. Depending on that value, the feature is going to be visible or it's going to be absent, okay? The only thing we're sending that way, the way of the library, is the application name and the key of the feature toggle, okay? And you're going to see very easily that the result of this call will basically determine if the counters are visible or not in the dashboard. So the only thing that's left is for us to enclose in an if. So the if is going to depend on the call. Let's publish. We just published in under 2 seconds. I can't promise it's going to happen like that. But if you refresh the page, you're going to see the counters. And now the obsessive compulsive behavior is going to force him to, disable the toggle. And we're going to see that the feature is absent again. So again, think of how powerful this can be. okay? It's a very simple example, but this will allow a business to determine that feature A is going to be visible, feature B, not yet. Let's wait for a little while longer. Let's just make it available when marketing actually decides it's the best time. Or feature A is misbehaving. Let's see what's happening. Let's disable it. Let's go back. Let's fix it. Let's make it available again. This is absolutely fundamental. Feature toggling, done. Code review and maintainability. The architecture and the code review play a pivotal role in the continuous delivery. If you come from the O11 world, you will notice that the way we design architectures in ODC is slightly different, a little bit different. The development, not so much for now, but since we're talking about high speed, high quality code, we need the architect and the tech lead to get closer still, and they need to be very in sync regarding the decisions that are made. So before they do any development, they need to plan, and there's that step that we're going to focus on, which is the architecture design review, where the architect and tech lead get together to validate the status of the architectural decisions. But then during development, there's a lot of things that are happening, code reviews, monitoring. In this particular case, the tech lead plays a central role because they need to do code reviews, but the developers as well. They all need to be monitoring what's happening in their code, the performance, if the technical debt is increasing. Last but not least, performance in error monitoring. Is this thing live? Is it in quality already? Let's check how it's performing. We are going to focus on 3 of those things. Architecture design review happens before the sprint. Code review happens during the sprint. And performance and error monitoring happens during the sprint, yes, but also after the sprint, when it's in QA and when it's live already. The first activity, architecture design review, 4 steps. This happens before each sprint, okay? 4 steps. The first one, the architecture design. Let's make sure the blueprint, the actual design, is available, visible to everyone, and that it reflects the best practices, the architecture best practices, the vision and the goal of the project. The second thing, let's look at the patterns that are used. Are they fit for a purpose? Are they actually the best patterns we should be using? Are we applying them well? Let's look into that. Third, risks. Have we identified the risks that this design brings? Have we created a plan to mitigate these risks? Are we all decided that the plan is enough? Last, there's this go, no-go kind of decision. If we're ready to start development, then we get a green light. Green light, which was agreed upon by architect and tech lead. Yeah, it's okay. The decisions are okay, you can go ahead. If not, let's revisit. Think about A, B, and C, redesign, and bring it back to me so that we can, again, make a well-thought-out decision on this. So this is a very simple representation of what happens between architect and tech lead before each sprint. But then we have code reviews, right? The tech lead needs to look at the code, needs to look at what the developers actually delivered. This is essential. This is an essential step to maintain code quality. So the tech lead will regularly review code for the adherence to coding standards, to best practices. There's a lot of content in our website. There's a lot of things around what you should and shouldn't do in the code. But there's one thing for which the tech lead is actually also essential. You can follow the best practices, but still your code might not be exactly what the business requested, right? So there's another thing you need to worry about. Is this fit for purpose code? I know you're following the best practice, but it is what's being asked or not. Also remember that I told you test automation is absolutely essential. So now there's not just business code, there's also BDD code, automated testing code. And these need to be reviewed as well. These are part of the development. These are embedded into the developer. I want to give you a great news, which is not news any longer, but Regarding technical debt, there's this console already available in ODC for you, okay? It's part of the mentor. And here it is. It's an AI-powered tool that allows us to look into our technical debt. Then we have the third step, the third phase, which is troubleshooting and performance monitoring. There's several tools we can use. ODC brings out of the box some tools for you. For example, the ODC portal gives you two things. I'm just going to talk about these two. The first one is app health. Okay, this is a dashboard to analyze key metrics. For example, requests, errors, the response time of your apps, and it actually sorts or categorizes your apps into critical, moderate, and good for your teams to focus on impact, focus on the critical first. And then you have the logs and traces, where you can deep dive into the execution of the apps and look into the sequence of events within an app. This is crucial for troubleshooting. So these are two tools that the platform already gives you, okay? But there's more. And there's, for example, the tools that a simple browser gives you. And the tech leads and devs should be all over these tools. The performance panel of Chrome, for example, gives you insights and means to deep dive on the performance of the apps from the client side. And whether it's running animations or responding to requests, or even when the applications are idle. It's a fun way to spend your afternoon deep diving into all of that, okay? Lighthouse. I don't know if you know Lighthouse. Who here knows Lighthouse? Okay, thank you. Quite several people. It's an open source automated tool that audits your page, and it looks into performance, accessibility, SEO, and gives you a lot of useful hints on how to improve these. And the three that I told you about, we've covered them. So that's code review and maintainability. Last, test automation, because we're going to have a session on quality 15 minutes from now. I just want to highlight the importance of doing a major shift left on the quality processes, namely of implementing test automation. I told you, crucial for continuous delivery. We need to be sure, we need to be comfortable with what we're delivering, with the quality of the code and of the processes. But there's also a ceremony that stands out, which is the Three Amigos session. Business, the technical side, and the testing team, they get together, they decide on the scope of the user stories, if the acceptance criteria is good enough, well-defined, what should be subject to automated testing. And that's a pivotal thing. That decision is key, okay? So we need, since we already know which tests should be automated, then how should we do it? You know that typically your developers, what they do is they build business code and they do manual exploratory testing. You see there are two new steps there, right? So they also need to develop their automated tests. They also need to run them, okay? The awesome news, and I'm not taking it away from Bruno, but the awesome news is that we have also great things to help you with this. Bruno will tell you all about it, okay? This gentleman who is right there is one of the most talented people I've worked with. This session is going to be amazing. Stick around. I'm really looking forward for this one. I've covered the highlights. Let me give you the main takeaways of this session. First thing, this is the answer to speed and stability. This is what's being asked of us as software builders. So combine ODC, this new powerful tool that abstracts a lot of the things that the development teams do now, and that give you a lot of tools that converge to the continuous delivery motion. It allows you to focus on speed and stability. Test automation is key, as is code review and maintainability. These two things combined, these two very large things combined, will give you a strong hold on quality. Remember, you need that because you're delivering quite frequently, so you need the quality to be there. Feature toggling, as I've been blagging about all afternoon, is the key to to decouple the release from the deployment, but also to manage work in progress, okay? This is going to protect everything, is going to protect everything that's running from everything that's still not validated, that still needs some tweaking, something that's still work in progress, or something that's there, but it's still not supposed to be released. Last but not least, your focus should be on bringing your people up to speed, upskill them. There's a lot of training around ODC, around architecture, around continuous delivery also. But you need to be very careful and actually invest on that change management. This is investment. This is not added time. This is going to actually release them from a lot of things they don't like to do. I know because I'm speaking by experience, okay? Use this, combine this with the tools that ODC give you, with the components that we're bringing to you as well. Combine it with this methodology, this new ways of working. Your customers will absolutely thank you. Remember that I told you that we're not in the past any longer? I think that is quite evident. So what I want to tell you is that the future is now. It's here with us. So let's make sure that we're all on board. Okay? And with that, I would like to thank you and close the session. Thank you.